right, on this week's episode of Magnified, we're joined by John from Magenta. What's going on, John?
Hey, how are you today?
I'm good. So I like to always start with the guest introducing themselves, their business, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is John Cox. I am one of the co-founders of Agenta, which is a SaaS media company that works exclusively with real estate brands.
Awesome. So on your website and conversations we've had, you guys kind of target the luxury market. Was there a reasoning behind that, or was it just something that kind of fell into place, the clientele you were meeting and picking up?
That was really an accident. I think as Agenta continued in its growth, it was natural that a lot of agents that are drawn to technology, that are drawn towards brand effective, brand focused marketing, drawn towards the other services that we offer, happen to specialize in the luxury market.
Yeah.
We've been really fortunate throughout the lifespan of Agenta to work with some of the most successful brands in real estate, but that was very much an accident. It was not intentional to focus exclusively on the luxury market. It was really more our intention to provide a unique service to fit a niche and a need that we saw that we didn't think existed. And I think we just happened to attract luxury agents and real estate brands.
Okay. And do you guys have a background in real estate, or are you more on the marketing side and just saw a niche for real estate agents?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my actual background, I'm a web developer by craft, and I spent a little over 10 years building websites for major motion picture studios in Hollywood. So my clients were Paramount Pictures, Universal, Disney. I've worked with most of the major studios in Hollywood. And then my wife actually got her real estate license and got involved in real estate. And I helped her team just on the side build a website for the real estate business. And what I discovered was that the technology that was backing real estate at the time, and then the complexity of the data, made the industry incredibly interesting. Real estate confronts so many unique issues from a technology and a marketing perspective that we found it really interesting. So my co-founder and I began servicing real estate agents and brands just kind of freelance, and then had the larger vision for Agenta and officially released Agenta in 2018.
2018. So it's 5 years. What's that growth look like for you guys? Was it kind of a slow and steady, or did you kind of hit a point where you just exploded because of all the referrals and stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you're dealing with technology, there's always two approaches. And a lot of companies take a more traditional kind of Silicon Valley type approach. They go out, they get a large investment, they invest a lot in product at the front end. We took a more kind of bootstrapped, agile type approach. We didn't even know if the idea that we had is what the market really wanted. And to us, done is better than perfect. We wanted to know if what we were building and what we were focusing on is what agents really wanted. So like with any technology company, at first you spend a lot of time developing product, developing your brand and your message and what you're going to focus on and which part of the market you're going to fit into. So you have a year or two of focusing on those elements. And then I would say within 6 to 8 months, we were growing at plus 10% every single month. So things happened very quickly. And then, of course, it's been a very interesting time in real estate over the last couple of years as well. Most markets in the US have experienced an incredible historical boom. It's attracted a lot of agents to the industry, and the industry as a whole grew very rapidly, and our business grew rapidly with it.
I guess we should back up a little bit. I should kind of have you define what you guys consider luxury. Just in case, like certain price ranges might be luxury in one state, whereas in other states that's just like a run of the mill. So, what is the luxury kind of price tag that you guys kind of go after?
That is such a good question, and one that is very difficult to define. Like you mentioned, there are market norms. So Agenta is founded and based in Nashville, and what would be considered luxury here, I would say, is anything over 1.5 million and up. I think you start to get into luxury. But we service clients in Manhattan or Los Angeles or the Bay Area, where 1.5 million would not be considered luxury, I think, by any stretch. So I think it really is dependent on the market. I think we also find that even with our luxury clientele, I think luxury is a word that agents want to define an experience. more so than a price point. We've helped agents market $500,000 homes. We've helped agents market $45 million homes. And I think that the experience that the agent is trying to deliver to their client is really where the word luxury in a lot of ways comes in. I think agents are striving to deliver a level of service to their clients at any price point that is very unique. Now, of course, as you get into those, if you get into multi-million-dollar homes, particularly 5 million and north and in coastal cities and that sort of thing, I think the typical clientele does change. What's required of a transaction does change, and I think there are some nuances there. But our focus more so, I think, is on enabling every client, regardless of what's considered luxury in their market, enabling them to provide a luxury experience of their own brand to their clients.
Yeah, I love that that kind of distinction there. That's very very well said. So on that kind of topic, what is the ROI that someone's looking for when it comes to the luxury market? Because you're not going to get the type of lead generation that you would get for a $500,000 home up to $1 million. What do the customers or the clients kind of see as success? Is it really just branding and showing exactly what they're about?
That's a great question. For us, I think there's very much a value ladder for all of our clients. First and foremost, 99% of our clients have built very strong referral-based businesses. The overwhelming majority of them have never run PPC. They're very new to SEO and other digital marketing strategies. Many of them have had websites and other transactional tools in their tool set over the last couple of years. But a lot of these concepts are new, even for the more successful and longer standing real estate brands that we've worked with. So I think return on investment is a very difficult thing to pinpoint in real estate because, especially when we're talking about digital marketing, unlike with e-commerce, if I'm selling a $100 bicycle and I know it cost me $10 to acquire that client, I have a very clear return on my investment. Mm-hmm. But if I'm advertising my real estate business, there's a very big difference between closing a $500,000 transaction and a $5 million transaction, even though that cost per click or what it took to acquire that client may be exactly the same. So kind of the last frontier of advertising and marketing in the real estate industry, I think, is determining exactly what that ROI is. I think for most agents, the trick is more about timing. Mm-hmm. We know in the industry that digital marketing and advertising, regardless of your strategy, it takes time and it takes effort. And I think sometimes there's an inclination with agents that have built really strong referral-based businesses that digital marketing somehow works differently, that the focus on relationship building is somehow different, that instant results are somehow expected. And if a company isn't promising you, you're going to have 10 closings this month or your money back, we find those types of promises extremely unrealistic. Mm-hmm. Digital advertising in real estate is still about building a relationship. We don't close the home online. We don't execute the transaction online. So the focus of it is really, of the online conversion, if you will, is establishing that relationship that otherwise wouldn't have been there. And it's very difficult to put an exact price tag on every single one of those relationships. So this is very much a perpetual conversation that we have with our clients, particularly those that are involved in PPC or SEO or other aggressive digital marketing strategies.
So are you involved in the follow-up side of things once that relationship has been established? Are you helping cultivate it, or do you guys kind of hand off the lead and then here you go, agent, do your thing?
That is a great question. A little bit of both. Mm-hmm. So in our experience and just kind of anecdotally talking to agents about what they wanted, what they had success with, and what they had not, there is certainly no shortage of lead gen programs and companies and products in our industry. I think from what we heard from agents, the call services and programs where those are the initial point of contact is being fielded by someone other than the agent. The lead quality can have a tendency to be a little bit lackluster for a lot of those. And it's our belief that at the end of the day, it is the agent's relationship, and therefore the agent should be the masthead of that relationship building. However, because understanding how to build a relationship with a cold lead that may not be referral based or someone that you've never spoken to before, how to cultivate that relationship and build it into something that returns value to your business is definitely a skill set. And it's new to a lot of agents. And so we do operate in a consultative capacity to provide our clients with templates and tips and tricks and sort of a step-by-step process of what we know works and will provide them with return on investment as they think creatively about what they want their unique follow-up plan to be.
Makes sense, yeah. And kind of on that point still, you guys have established what works, especially when it comes to follow-up and how you guys really dial in what you're doing. How much has Agenta 2018 to Agenta 2023, has that changed much? What did you learn along the way that you stopped doing or you kind of made adjustments to?
Yeah. So our core mission was when we looked out at the market, we saw a lot of products and companies that kind of fell into one of a couple of categories. The first category was we're really a CRM company and we kind of stick some branding on top. And to us, in real estate, your brand is really one of the most powerful things that you bring to the table. Your reputation is what builds that referral pipeline that most of our clients build their businesses on. And there wasn't necessarily a super brand centric approach at the time. There were some companies that are certainly larger now that I think had kind of started moving in that direction. And we certainly wanted to do the same thing. So everything that we do takes a very brand centric approach. And our first obligation is to be sure that when someone hears your name through a past client, through a friend, through a colleague, and they do their checking up on you online, that first impression is something that is really spectacular. So we focus first on building really great websites that are engaging, that elevate the brand, that bring a new level of design that at the time wasn't particularly common in the industry.
Yeah.
But the part about our business that's unique is there's a lot of incredible platforms out there. What we found was that agents were paying thousands of dollars a year in many cases for platforms that they never really learned how to use. And it wasn't because they weren't willing. It was because they didn't have time. Being an agent is busy. And if you have a large team and you have a lot of administrative help, then some of the technical tasks and administrative tasks, they get easier. But when you take a single agent, or two or three people on your team and you try to manage everything, you have to become an expert negotiator. You have to become an expert salesperson. You have to become an expert at lead gen. And now you have to become an expert web designer as well.
Yeah.
And no matter what the platform is, you are going to run into a brick wall. You're going to run into something that you need that you just can't quite figure out how to get done. And that was really the niche that we wanted to fill. So Agenta operates as a partner. We are a fully managed website service. So we want our clients to go stay focused on selling real estate and let our team of professionals that doesn't do anything all day except build websites, write content, and manage PPC advertising, let us handle the heavy lifting. To kind of put that in context, we'll have a client come and say, hey, I just sold a house in this particular neighborhood. I'm thinking about a targeted mail campaign. And I want to put a QR code on that goes to a very specific type of landing page with a very specific form and very specific content. And I want it to look like this. And I want it to have this calendar embed where they can schedule an appointment and that sort of thing. And in a lot of cases, the kind of do-it-yourself platforms are just not going to allow you the type of flexibility to be able to build that quickly, elegantly, and exactly the way that you want. And that's where Agenta comes in. So we'll step in, and in 24 hours, turn that landing page around to enable agents to market themselves and their brand how they want to. So they have the dream and the vision, and then we make that come to life so that they don't have to do the physical labor.
Okay. Talking about your team of professionals, a lot of our listeners are real estate agents. They're also kind of solopreneurs, a lot of marketing agents, web designers. I'm always very curious. I like to pick our guest brains on how they grew their business, how they scaled, who they hired, when they hired them. Can you kind of talk us through the process of the last 5 years of who were the first hires you made? Like how many people are on the team now?
Yeah, absolutely. So our team is about 15. We are a fully remote business. So we have team members from New York to California. Like I mentioned, we're founded and based here in Nashville. So there are several of us that are here. Yeah. But we practice what we preach. Our business grew during the COVID pandemic when a lot of people were working remote for the first time anyway. And so it made
Yeah.
sense to us that, a brick and mortar location wasn't necessarily in our interest or the interest of our clients. We could operate more agile, being fully remote. So we have the luxury of hiring at the national level, which is incredibly helpful. Having to source talent only from one location that may be close to your office, there's a lot of other considerations that potential employee is going to have to make. And as an employer, you can kind of take the gloves off when you hire fully remote and at the national level. And it gives you the ability to attract incredible talent a lot faster.
Yeah.
So that's been really important. As far as building the business, attracting clients and kind of selling ourselves, the biggest lesson that we learned was establish great partnerships. Whether it's brokerages, we have several large national brokerages that are major partners and major feeders for us. We have several agents that are known at the national level, whether they're, on the RealTrends top 100 list or whether or not they've just been in the business for a long time. They consistently refer us clients. That makes our business a lot like our agents. It is largely referral based, and we like that because we're focused on the relationship. And that's been, I think, probably the most powerful tool in our toolbox as far as growth is being able to develop and create those partnerships that make our job easier, where we can just focus on servicing our client and not as much on the acquisition.
And when it came to like hiring members of the team, did you look at the things that you and your partner were good at and then outsource the things you felt like you were weaker on, or did you want to build on the stuff you were good at and make that more what the business was? What was the kind of the strategy behind the hiring?
Such a good question. Yeah, definitely the former. All of the partners for the business are big believers that our goal is to never be the smartest people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather work with people that are twice as smart as I am, because they're going to bring creative ideas to the table that we would not have thought of. And we try to do things creatively and think differently. And I think the best way to do that is to bring a group of really creative people to the table that can think in a more communal type way. So we have a very lateral management approach as opposed to a top-down management approach. We want to empower every single resource, every single team member to feel that they have personal ownership over what they're doing, autonomy, and that brings a lot of creative ideas to the table. In terms of finding them and how they're sourced, the first thing that we're really looking for is we really want you to have experience in real estate. We have web developers that also have their real estate license and have practiced real estate and closed transactions. We have sons and daughters of realtors whose, moms or dads have been in the real estate industry for decades. We have team members that have worked in real estate technology for years. So that's one of the first things that we look for. And I think that it's important because real estate is so unique from so many other types of digital marketing. It's really important to us that our clients feel like we understand what your day-to-day is like. We understand the challenges that you're confronting. We understand the business. We understand what's happening in the market. And that informs what we're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I have background in real estate. I was an agent for about 6 or 7 years. And to that point, it does really help when I can identify the pain points of the customers. And I can also speak to the developers because I can kind of say, well, maybe real estate agents don't need that or want that. Maybe you should look at this and focus on these areas. So I think there is a lot to that. I'm interested in what you were talking about with partnerships. One of my main roles here at Showcase is to manage partnerships. A lot of patience involved. A lot of times you establish relationships and you kind of have to work through them for months, sometimes years, until you get any fruition from those. What are some of the lessons you've learned when it's come to building partnerships? Because it really is a key aspect for building any business.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first, like you mentioned, is a little bit of patience and be ready.
Mm-hmm.
For us, one of our most significant partners, we inked the deal for the partnership and then things kind of went quiet. And there wasn't, as you mentioned, a lot of movement at first. And then that first call came. And the client was a very important agent at the brokerage, and one that was at the time very unhappy with their current website provider and the experience that they had. And so we were kind of being called into the rescue. And at the time, the partners remember thinking that it was very interesting that sort of the first trial run that they wanted to have as part of our partnership was such a significant agent and such a significant problem for them to solve, so that they could retain the agent. And so kind of being ready for that opportunity, I think, is key, because it can happen at any moment. And, you can try to create a strategy and plan and execute. And sometimes in business, it's the things that you didn't see coming that create the most powerful opportunities. And I think just being ready for that is really important. The other thing I would say is focusing on value more than you focus on your brand or your accomplishments. That's always been our focus, rather than talking about what Agenta's achieved or our numbers or our metrics or those sorts of things. Really focusing on the value that we can provide, and that's substantiated. We share the same concept with our agents. When you're marketing your business digitally, always focus on value first. What can you give that potential client? What can you give that potential prospect for free that they didn't have before? That is a really effective way of building new relationships. And we do the same thing with our partnerships.
Yeah, and I often speak to that with agents in particular, that the statistic from the National Association of Realtors, I believe the last one I saw was 48% of home buyers start their search online, and then they speak to one agent and one agent only, about 73% of those people. So you have to provide as much value up front. Mm-hmm. So you're the first person that they call, because they're only going to call one person. And it really is, like you said, establishing a partnership and a relationship. So I like a lot of what you said there. I want to look into the future. You've been around for 5 years doing this. What do you want to see in the next 5 years? If you could sit down with 2028 John Cox and say, hey, mate, what have you been up to?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. I think one of the things that we're focusing on is just continuing to improve the breadth of what we can offer in-house at Agenta. There was a really interesting survey that was just put out by Inman, and they surveyed a couple hundred agents on kind of a series of topics, but all related to tech. And it was interesting because there's been a huge movement in the last couple of years for brokerages to become more tech forward and offer more tools. So, the hot desk and the fax machine is no longer cutting it if you're giving up a large split of your commission income to your brokerage. And so agents started looking for more. And a lot of brokerages have invested quite heavily into technology. The interesting thing was that of the agents that Inman surveyed, there were only about 11% that said they used their brokerage provided technology stack alone and in its totality.
Yeah.
So despite all of the heavy investment by brokerage brands into technology, there's still a very small portion of agents that are using those tools exclusively. I think there's always going to be that challenge of wanting to avoid kind of Frankensteining so many different pieces together. To try to come up with a coherent solution. At the same time, it's very difficult for any company to truly provide an end-to-end, lead to closing, and then, beyond to continuing to nurture those clients end to end. There are a lot of components that go into a transaction, that go into lead generation, that go into the follow-up. So it's very difficult to tackle that. So where we're really trying to focus, I think, is more on the front end, bringing the highest quality prospects and leads to our clients that we possibly can, and getting that exactly right first. So we're not necessarily focused on the transactional side of the business as we are on the actual marketing, advertising, and lead gen side of the business. And I think for the next couple of years, that's probably where most of our attention is going to lie.
And where do you foresee a lot of that attention being spent in terms of the platforms you're marketing on and the money you're spending on those advertising streams?
Yeah, absolutely. I think step one is getting in front of the right audience.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult to do. It is a crowded market. There's a lot of buzzwords in the industry. We'll have a client come to us and say, well, how do I get to page one for the keyword Houston home for sale? Organically. And we say, well, you probably don't. And that immediately is kind of, but
Yeah.
wait, I went to this coaching seminar and they all said SEO, I need to work on my website's SEO. We say, yes, exactly. That's true. That is not, that's not an untrue statement. But, if you Google Houston homes for sale, your first 4 links are going to be pay-per-click. Your next 10 links are going to be major portals. Your next 10 are going to be major brokerages. And out of probably north of 60 to 80,000 realtors in the Houston area, there isn't one that ranks organically for the most competitive keyword related to real estate, which would be Houston homes for sale.
Yeah.
So SEO isn't even the right strategy. You should take a PPC strategy, or you should take a hyper local strategy where you focus on an individual subdivision, an individual development, a smaller neighborhood. So we're spending a lot of time developing products and services and tools and resources that help our clients understand the complexities of what they're trying to do and move in the right direction quickly and efficiently so that they do get that, return on investment that we were talking about earlier.
And what are you finding, talking about how your agents are coming to you and saying SEO, what are some of the main buzzwords that you are hearing right now? What is the hot topic? I'm sure AI is like a big thing that you're hearing about, but what are agents talking about? Is there a particular direction you see the industry going in?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's no doubt the impact that AI is going to have. I think, regardless of what your opinion is about AI, I would say you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think the future is very much unknown. I do think that AI is going to become a tool like social media that just becomes a part of our daily lives. I think learning to use it effectively is of paramount importance. And I think paying close attention to how Google and other search engines treat content generated by AI is very important. About 6 to 9 months ago, Google changed the algorithm, and it appeared to SEO experts that they were penalizing content generated by AI. Then they seemed to backtrack that and now actually publicize that they don't care where the content was generated. They care about its relevance. They care about its authority. They care about its uniqueness. And so we're back to just basic SEO. So in that regard, I think, using artificial intelligence effectively to create great, unique, hyper-local content, I think is important. And I think we're going to find that it gets built into a lot of platforms and a lot of tools. And I would definitely count Agenta in that pool that will be making very good use of it. The other big buzzword that we hear in the industry, we talked about SEO. That's definitely a big one. I'd probably say that's the most common question that we get because it is so complicated. It is such a buzzword. And I think a lot of realtors don't really understand what it's about or how it works. Another one that's really big is ADA compliance. It is a big one as well.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple of questions about that recently, actually.
Yeah. That's a really complicated issue as well. So ADA has been around for, many, many years. And what a lot of agents don't realize is, if you're a real estate agent and you have a home office and you're actually writing that office off on your taxes and you do, and your home is not wheelchair accessible, you're in violation of the ADA. So there is a long list of ADA compliance considerations to make. But of course, 4 or 5 years ago, we started seeing some lawsuits against individual realtors crop up for the level of compliance that their website had. Fortunately, most of those lawsuits were localized to one particular part of the country. In fact, it's something like over 40% of the cases that were filed were actually filed by one individual plaintiff. Huh. So I think that was interesting, but it did get the industry's attention. And I do think it is something that every real estate website company is highly focused on making your website more ADA compliant. And it is extremely complex and also very expensive. So that's something I would encourage agents to educate themselves on. And we certainly have a solution that we offer that even builds in an indemnification guarantee, which is extremely rare. So it offers an additional layer of protection for agents, and I think that's really important. But that's definitely an important topic, I think, and we hear a lot of questions about it because of the complexity that's involved.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, right? It's not like a sexy term, and it's not razzle dazzle, but it's very, very important. And if it's overlooked, it could end up really hampering your business. So, it's great that you're paying attention to that. I want to wrap up with asking you. You've achieved a fair amount of success. I'm sure we're never happy with the success we have. We always want more. But
sure.
What would you, if someone's starting out doing what you guys do, what would be the next 3 moves you would recommend that they make to set them on the path to where you guys are now?
First, I would say test the market. There is such thing as an incredible idea and an incredible product that simply doesn't work financially, or that isn't scalable. What Agenta focuses on and what we do now is not the only idea that we've ever had. And it's certainly not the only product that we've ever introduced. And so I think testing the market is important. Sometimes you're surprised and you don't know. We're big believers that data tells the truth. Follow the numbers, follow the data. So that's a big mistake that I think a lot of either entrepreneurs that are just starting out, or those that, maybe they're trying to build a new business for the first time, that sometimes gets overlooked. Don't be so attached to any idea that you don't know when to fold your hand. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Second, I think decide early on what you want your business structure to be and where your financing is going to come from. There are significant advantages in technology to taking a more traditional outside financing route. It allows you to grow faster. It allows you to iterate faster. You're also going to assume a lot of risk, and you're going to put more cooks in the kitchen with your investors.
Yeah.
Alternatively, if you choose to build something, on your own, bootstrapped or through financing through friends and family or your own financial backing, you have complete autonomy, which is extremely powerful. But you're likely to move slower because you don't have the same resources.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think either approach is a make or break. There are massively successful companies in virtually every business sector that we could talk about that have achieved incredible success using either. But I do think it's important to make that decision early on. It is definitely going to be something that impacts your business and your decision making. So those are 2 really important considerations, I think. The third one, I would say, really understand your niche and your voice in a competitive market. Particularly with technology, everything moves so quickly now that actual innovation is hard to find. There's a lot of iteration where we're creating the wheel in a different way. And there's a lot of power in that. There are not as many truly innovative ideas. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we can get hung up on trying to do the innovative idea instead of realizing that there's this incredible opportunity to simply iterate in a different way and really fill a need in the market. So don't overlook that. I think we always kind of say that your first idea on the napkin is not not worth as much maybe as it once was. I think getting to market quickly, really knowing what your niche is, and not being afraid to lean maybe as much into iteration as you are into innovation, I think has created some really successful companies.
Yeah, I read this great book fairly recently, $100 million, $100 million, not Leeds, that's his new book. It's Alex Hormozi book, $100 million sales, I forget what it's called. But one of the big takeaways I had was just what you said about niching down. I think a lot of entrepreneurs try and spread themselves too thin, try and cover too many bases and kind of spread their net so wide they're going to try thinking they'll catch as many people as possible. But if you become that expert, and this goes for agents and for developers, if you really make yourself the expert on one particular thing, I think you've got a business for life there. If there is a market for it, like you said.
Could not agree more. Yeah. I think a lot of industries, and especially technology and real estate, is moving towards a specialist and being that specialist in your particular niche. It also simplifies your job.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to lean into. We've seen a real estate business get built a lot of different ways. I think understanding how you want to build your business and really leaning into that and being that specialist is incredibly advantageous.
Yeah. Hey, that was a really, really interesting chat. Learned a lot. Where can people find you? What's the best place to visit if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It was really a pleasure. Everyone can find us at agentawebsites.com. That's AGENTA websites.com. Certainly check us out there. Feel free to schedule a quick demo. We meet in person via Zoom, walk you through the entire product, what we do. And yeah, we would love to talk with any of your agents that are looking to advance their digital marketing and advertising.
All right, man. Thanks again. That was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.